Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. My name is Julian, and this is the waiver wire video for week 5 of the fantasy season. Before we get started, guys, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. More than half of you guys that watch this channel are not subscribed, and it really would mean the world to me if you click that button. I'm trying to hit 5K subscribers this year, and we're getting closer and closer every single week, so every subscriber really counts. So I really hope that you guys hit that and help me reach my goal this year. Let's get right into it now, and let's start with the schedule for this week. And let's take a look here, and as you can see, on Monday there are 3 games, on Tuesday there are 11, Wednesday 4, Thursday 10, Friday 4, Saturday 13, and Sunday 6. So as usual, the off nights are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday are super busy days as usual. Now, Tuesday and Thursday are not actually as busy as they often are. So there's a chance that you do have maybe a defenseman slot or a winger slot available on those days. Go ahead and check your lineup. So you may not actually need to pick up players that play on off nights if you do have a little bit of room on your lineup on Tuesday and Thursday. But if you don't have room in your lineup on Tuesday or Thursday, the 2 best teams to pick up players from are Washington and Minnesota. Washington plays on all 4 off nights, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and Minnesota plays on Tuesday as well as the other 3 off nights, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, which is pretty solid. Now, there are 5 teams that have a pretty bad schedule this week, and those teams are Anaheim, Chicago, Colorado, Columbus, and Florida. Yes, Colorado and Columbus have a bad schedule once again. That's kind of because they're coming back from Finland, so they're going to be a little bit... they're giving them a few days to relax and rest, basically, after that trip. And that's why they only have 2 games once again this week. So if you do own some lower owned players from any of these teams, you could consider dropping them for this week. Without further ado, now let's jump right into the players that I'm suggesting adding for this week and possibly for the future as well. First guy on the list is Martin Necas of the Carolina Hurricanes, 64% rostered. And this may be the last chance I have to include Necas in one of these videos. He's already pretty high rostered, but the dude's just playing so well on that second line with Svechnikov, getting top power play time, and really producing. Now, he is producing at kind of an unsustainably high rate, but for now, guys, he's someone that you're going to want to have as long as he's rolling. And even when he slows down a little bit, he still should be fantasy viable for the rest of the year. Definitely like Martin Necas. Then I have Nico Hischier of the New Jersey Devils, and I have no idea how this guy is only 56% rostered. This guy should be well over 70% rostered at this point. He's getting points every single night. He's winning an insane amount of faceoff. He's shooting the puck. He's doing everything right. This guy should absolutely be owned in way more leagues. Then I have Joel Eriksson, who I have as an ad for this week specifically. He's enjoying himself a really nice season this year. He's playing on the power play as well as on the penalty kill, so maybe he can get you a shorthanded point as well. And he's looking pretty good this year, scoring points seemingly every single night. And he's someone that I do definitely really like playing with Matt Boldy on that second line. Then I have Jake DeBrusk, who's playing on the top line with Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron, and he has been putting up points the entire season, even without Marchand. So now that Marchand's there, he's only more valuable and definitely should be added in more leagues. And then I have Brock Nelson, who as of late has been incredible. And honestly, if you look at his stats, he's been putting up points the entire season so far. It seems like every second year, Brock Nelson goes off and has an incredible season. And then the next year, he kind of, has a quieter year. This year might be the year that he goes off and has himself another really solid season. Definitely like me some Brock Nelson. Then I got Jeff Skinner of the Buffalo Sabres, and he was getting dropped a lot at the beginning of the season. And I was never someone who was considering dropping Jeff Skinner. Jeff Skinner was always getting top line, top power play deployment with Tage Thompson. And I knew as soon as Tage Thompson got going, Jeff Skinner would too. And it looks like he's starting to catch fire a little bit. Definitely like him as an ad. Shane Pinto is another guy who's a really solid ad right now. Looks like he's finally taking the spot on the second line center role between DeBrincat and Giroux. And that's a place where he can definitely catch fire. And he's already on fire with the amount of goals that he's been scoring. So definitely someone that I like to pick up. Then Dylan Strome of the Washington Capitals is playing on the second line with Johansson and Sherry and has been doing decently. Also getting top power play time. And on a week where Washington has 4 off-night games, he's definitely a priority add. Then Andrei Kuzmenko, who as of late seems to have kind of turned it back on, playing on the second line with Pettersson and with Mikheyev. In his last 3 games, he's got 2 goals and 2 assists, so definitely someone to be keeping an eye on. Anthony Mantha is another guy who honestly has been pretty bad. But he was just moved onto the top line with Alexander Ovechkin and Evgeny Kuznetsov. Now, if he keeps that deployment, he's someone that definitely should be considered for adding to your team for this coming week because of the off nights that Washington has. Mantha could definitely find his stride this week. Then I got Trevor Moore of the LA Kings playing on the second line with Danault and with Arvidsson, and he's putting up a couple points, it looks like, every second game or so. He's someone who's shooting the puck a decent amount and is putting up enough points to be owned in deeper leagues. He's definitely someone that I like in deeper leagues and should be added in more than 13% of leagues. Then we got Brandon Hagel, who's got 6 points in his last 5 games, playing on the top line with Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov. That's an amazing place to be, and as long as he stays hot, he's definitely someone that you can be adding in deeper leagues. Connor Sherry, someone who's a solid add this week for the off nights that Washington has. He's someone that's actually been producing on Washington. He has the 2nd most points in Washington right after Ovechkin, and he was just on Ovechkin's line, was moved down to the second line, but he's been one of the most productive guys there. So honestly, a really solid add for the off nights this week. Nick Paul is someone who's getting second line time in Tampa Bay alongside Stamkos and Killorn. He's also someone who's very hot right now. And then Frederick Gaudreau of the Minnesota Wild is someone who I would add for this week for the off nights that Minnesota has, playing alongside Kaprizov and Zuccarello on the top line in Minnesota, who I would add for the off nights that Minnesota has this week. Honestly, a pretty solid add. Then I have Ilya Mikheyev of the Vancouver Canucks, and despite Vancouver being bad, that line's been pretty solid with Kuzmenko and Patterson as of late. If they stay hot, definitely guys that you can consider streaming. Marcus Johansson's a guy who I like as well for the off nights that Washington has. Been one of their better players this year and is playing on the second line right now with Strome and Sherry. Kyle Okposo is a guy who I really like playing on the top line in Buffalo with Skinner and with Tage Thompson. As long as that line stays super hot, Okposo is a guy that should be owned in more than 3% of leagues. Then Thomas Tatar of the New Jersey Devils is someone that's kind of a sneaky ad. He's been producing as of late and is playing on the second line with Nico Hischier. And we all know how hot Nico Hischier has been. As long as he stays hot, Tatar is someone that can be owned in more than 1% of leagues. And finally, I have Mason Shaw of the Minnesota Wild. And I don't know a whole lot about this guy. I've never really heard of this guy until this season. But he's getting second line deployment alongside Eriksson Ek and Matt Boldy. And he's actually been producing, not to mention he's getting PP2 time. So they're really trying to feed this guy minutes. And he has been producing. And if you're in a super deep league, I don't mind grabbing this guy for the off nights that Minnesota has this week. Jumping into defenseman now, and first on the list is Calen Addison of the Minnesota Wild. Only 26% roster. He's been dropped in a few leagues, but he's still getting the top power play time in Minnesota on a power play that features both Zuccarello and Kaprizov. He's bound to get going, and while he doesn't put up a lot of peripherals, the points definitely should be coming. And on a week where Minnesota has a nice off-night week, Addison is definitely someone who's a solid add. Philip Hronek is another good player to be adding right now, getting top power play time in Detroit, and has been putting up points. Alec Martinez is someone who I really like this year. This guy has been blocking an ungodly amount of shots. The amount of block shots this guy is averaging is absolutely insane. It's almost 5 per game. This guy is just, he's been incredible. So if you're in a cast league and you need block shots, he's the guy that you want to own for sure. And if you're in a points-based leagues where blocks count as points, definitely someone you also want to own. Nick Jensen is someone who is looking really good right now. He's putting up points, putting up some decent peripherals, and I'm not expecting that to last, but on a week where Washington has a favorable off-night schedule, Jensen is definitely someone that you can roll with. And then Caleb Jones of the Chicago Blackhawks, and Seth Jones, who was previously manning Chicago's power play, is out 3 to 4 weeks. So Caleb Jones is now the quarterback of that top power play, and he's honestly been producing a nice amount. He definitely should be more than 2% rostered, someone that I really like right now. And if you're in a super deep league, you should rush and grab him right away. Let's look at goaltender options now. And first on the list is Vitek Vanecek of the New Jersey Devils. 45% rostered, and he has been playing better than Blackwood lately, so he should get a few more starts than Blackwood. But Blackwood is definitely still going to factor into the equation. Jake Allen is someone, the Montreal Canadiens, that will get the bulk of the starts. He's only 39% rostered. Should get about 2 to 3 starts per week for Montreal. James Reimer is definitely the starter in San Jose. Had a couple of weaker games lately, but he's definitely still better than Kaapo Kähkönen. Stuart Skinner of the Edmonton Oilers has been outplaying Jack Campbell so far, and he's seeing it looks like what could be every second start for Edmonton. If he does start seeing every second start, Stuart Skinner is definitely a priority add. Eric Comrie of the Buffalo Sabres is seeing the bulk of the starts for Buffalo, and Buffalo is still looking pretty decent this year, so Comrie, not a bad ad at all. Then I have Alex Stalock / Arvid Soderblom. Basically, Stalock is in the concussion protocol right now. So if he's okay, he's definitely the guy who I want to be owning right now in Chicago. If he's going to be out a few games, Soderblom is suddenly the starter in Chicago. And over the couple games that he's played so far, he hasn't looked too bad. Next I have Adin Hill of the Vegas Golden Knights, 23% rostered. And it's kind of weird that they're giving him so many starts considering how well Logan Thompson is playing. But Hill is playing just as well as Thompson, and he seems to be getting it 1 out of every 2 or 3 starts for the Vegas Golden Knights. And as long as he's getting that volume of starts and is playing as well as he is when he does start, he's someone that definitely could be owned in more than 23% of leagues. Then I have Scott Wedgwood of the Dallas Stars, and as long as Ottinger is out, is as long as you should be owning Scott Wedgwood. If you're an Ottinger owner, you could definitely consider picking up Wedgwood as a fill-in until Ottinger becomes healthy. Shouldn't be too long, though, for Ottinger. Karel Vejmelka, 11% rostered, is the starter in Arizona, although he is currently splitting, it looks like. That starts with Connor Ingram, who's lower on this list, so they should be getting about 50-50. So Ingram's a decent ad if you're in a super deep league and there's nobody else available, because he's only 1% rostered. And then Vejmelka is probably the guy who I would prefer, who's at 11% rostered. And then I have Martin Jones. He's definitely the starter as long as he is healthy and in. And then Spencer Martin of the Vancouver Canucks is someone that I would consider adding this week if I'm desperate for a goalie in a super deep league. Vancouver plays 2 sets of back-to-backs this week, the first against Ottawa and Montreal, and the second against Toronto and Boston. Not the easiest matchups, but Martin has been outplaying Demko so far this year in the couple of games that he has played. So he may be in for a lot of shots against, and in points-based leagues, he's someone that you definitely could be considering for a couple of starts. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Hope you enjoyed the content today. If you did, leave a comment down below and let me know which of these guys you're considering adding to your team. Until next time, I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.